Welcome to the Amphigory Effect podcast with your host, Zach Brackett, and your co-host, Justin Marlowe. Let's begin.
Okay. This is it, then we're recording. Zach, start it right now.
Start it right this second.
Hey guys, welcome to the Amphigory Effect. Zach, I think you have some announcements for us, right?
Yes, I do. Before we introduce our lovely guests, thank you guys so much for coming. But before we get to you, we're going to look at our YouTube stuff, man. We almost got 50 subscribers. It was at 46 at the time of this recording. So guys, we only need 4 of you to hit the subscribe button.
Just do it.
Just do it, man.
Just click.
It's not that hard. Do it. God, now I'm mad. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Introduce.
All right, moving on. Today we decided to talk a little bit about education and educators. So with us we have two educators. Yeah.
Nice.
We have
Justin.
with us my girlfriend, Kayleigh Neff, who is a teacher.
Woo.
I think she's going to be doing 4th grade next year. And Taylor Brackett, Zach's lovely wife, who I think is going to be teaching 3rd grade?
6th. Close,
6th grade. Oh,
close.
6th grade next year.
So bear with us as we're having to share some microphones here, but I got a question for each of you. What made you guys want to become teachers? Because I tried it and I hated it, and so I think it takes a very special person to become a teacher. So what started that for you guys?
I'll go. Never in a million years did I ever think that I would want to be a teacher. I thought that I wanted to get into psychology.
Okay.
But my senior year of college, I started working at a daycare, and I worked with all different ages of kids, 8 weeks old up until middle school.
Wow.
And I really liked it, especially when I would work with the older ones and kind of help them with their schoolwork after school and all that. And I originally went on to go get my PhD in school psychology, but it wasn't what I wanted to do once I got into it. So I switched and I got my master's in education instead. And this is going to be my 4th year.
Wow, nice.
Going
That's
into
awesome.
teaching.
You haven't gone insane yet, somehow.
Not yet.
Amazing.
Just give it
There
time.
are days.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Taylor?
Mine would be, I kind of always wanted to be a teacher, from when I was little. That's just something I did. I would sit my cousins down and my brother and teach them.
Cool.
So it was kind of something that when I got to be a senior in high school, I was like, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. So when I got accepted to Winthrop, I was like, well, that's the best education school around, so that must just be a sign. And that's just where I've been. Just graduated, gonna start 1st year teaching next year, 6th grade. So
Crazy. A couple of months now. Not far
guess
away.
we'll see then if I still
If
like
you
it.
still like it,
Yeah.
we'll come back to that.
Exciting or
yet.
terrifying?
I did the college work,
Yeah, and that's
We'll see
half
the-
the battle, right?
the classroom.
Well, that's awesome, guys. What do you think about? I mean, we jump right into actually.
Yeah. Let's
education.
talk about the
just do
interesting
it, man.
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
What do you guys think of today's, specifically the U.S. education system? I know there's a lot of controversy, and I heard a lot of stuff about Common Core. Some of my Winthrop teachers absolutely hated Common Core. Some of them really liked it, and I don't really understand all of it. So what do you guys think about stuff like that?
Yeah, especially if you could explain, to the viewers and to me a little bit what exactly it is, that'd be great. Just
So-
briefly.
South Carolina actually doesn't have the Common Core anymore. We have our own standards, the South Carolina College and Career Readiness Standards.
It's a lot harder to say than Common Core.
It is. It's SCCCRS. I always forget an extra C in there, yeah.
All those acronyms.
But in New York, we had Common Core, which is where I started teaching. That was where I did my 1st year in my student teaching and all of that. So Common Core, basically the idea behind it was that we want to have every student learn the same things no matter where they live in the country. So all 3rd graders in America learn the exact same things no matter where they live. So it doesn't matter if you're in a higher income district or a lower income district or in the north or the south or the east or the west, you all learn
Trying
the
to
same
lower
things.
the gap between. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes
Seems
sense.
like a noble pursuit, right? Where did it all
On
go
paper.
wrong?
That's exactly it. It was a really great idea on paper, but the way that they rolled it out, instead of gradually, they kind of just took all of the standards and threw them at us and said, here you go, figure it out. Which is really difficult to do when, you have to learn it with the kids. And especially in math, I don't know if you've
Yeah.
felt this too, is some of the math is very different from the way that we learned it. Different strategies and different ways of, I mean, even just subtraction. Like, you don't cross something out anymore and carry over. It's all kinds of.
That's how I base all my math. That's literally
yeah.
all the math.
Well,
Apply
still
a
do
calculator,
too.
press buttons.
I still do too, but it's different, and I don't think that they gave a whole lot of support to teachers as
Right.
they were trying to figure it out.
Now, were you teaching when they implemented this? What year did this go out?
Yeah.
This came out a few years before I started teaching.
Okay, because I was curious to see, because I know Taylor wasn't, like, she's been with at least some form of standard, like South Carolina standard, since she started teaching. But does that correlate any to the, was it No Child Left Behind or something like that? Is that what that is? Is that together?
Yeah, and No Child Left Behind has a lot to do with funding as well for schools.
Oh, okay.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah.
So what do you think, Taylor? What do you think about the standards and Common Core and all that?
I mean, she kind of explained it all. I think that the main thing is that the Common Core, especially with the math, was it was trying to give kids more options. Like for the kids who didn't understand, well, why do I just cross something out and carry something? But in doing that, they almost put too many options.
Right.
And then I think a lot of parents, since we all learned this way, we're like, well, why can't the kids learn that way? And I think parents got frustrated because just like the teachers, they were having to learn with the kids.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
So they couldn't help the kids.
Right.
So then I think they felt like they kind of looked stupid.
So your kid comes home with his math homework and is like, well, this is how the teacher told me to do it. And then you're
She's
like,
wrong. Go get me a switch. I'll teach you the right way.
This isn't just high school homework either. This is, second grade homework.
Wow.
I taught second grade last year, and I would have parents email me and say, I do not understand how to do this.
Wow.
And I would have to, I'm teaching and I
Jeez.
can't blame them. I mean, it's
Right.
it's a very different way of thinking.
I had to have two college classes to teach me how to do it
Right.
for elementary school, because now you have manipulatives and you have like, can you do
What?
it
I
with
don't-
blocks?
Yeah.
Like blocks.
Oh, okay.
Counters.
You literally
Like
manipulate kinesthetic.
Yes.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
kinesthetic
Yeah,
learners.
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
And that was the goal.
I don't know the word. I
But
know
for
what it means.
some of us, that was like, that just seemed excessive.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
why
Makes
do
sense.
I need blocks when I'm subtracting 5 from 10?
So I think that's a good segue. I never had considered like how the parents might feel like they're not as big a part of their kids' learning because of like changing teaching strategies. How big a part do you think parents play in like a kid's overall development in school?
I mean, I would say they play a huge part in it because, I mean, we have the kids during the day, but if there's not a parent at home working with them, then we have 24 kids in a classroom. So we can't,
Sometimes that's if we're lucky.
yeah, we can't always, if this kid needs a little bit more help, we can't always help them because we have 23 other kids. So that's where the parents can step in and kind of try to help. But that's where another problem comes in when they don't understand the work, then they can't help as much, and then you have this disconnect where the parents are frustrated and the teacher's frustrated and the kid is the one suffering.
I found kind of a similar problem where I would have, this line of kids who they all want to come talk to you because they don't know what to do.
Wow.
So one thing that I did toward the end of the school year that I came up with was I would have my fast finishers, my kids who got it, they went right through it. I would have some of them as I think I called them teacher's assistants. And
Okay, I
they
see.
would kind of get,
Slave driver.
Wow.
no,
Put on to work.
because they would get extra enrichment kind of reteaching the
Right.
material.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I have my kids do a lot of partner work and group work and kind of peer tutoring in a sense, but I think that they learn a lot when they can teach it to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So in that aspect, it's
That
good.
makes sense. So any transition is going to be really difficult. So do you think standards and Common Core, do you think they will be successful and will be, when the kids that are in there now are teaching their children or helping their children when they come home with homework, do you think that this is just a transition thing, that's why it's so difficult, or do you think there's actually something wrong with the way they're trying to.
I mean,
do it.
you said that South Carolina has moved away from that Common Core. Is that the right move, or was it
Or do you just
too
need to stick it
early?
out, or-
Yeah, exactly.
They haven't really moved away from it. We kind of just took what they had and changed a little bit of wording, but if you were to sit them down beside each other, it would match up pretty much.
So why
Okay.
why change it at all?
Just have more control, I guess.
Well, Common Core, it's almost become like a dirty word. I mean, parents hear
The marketing.
Common Core and teachers hear Common Core. It's
And
not
they're
just
just like,
parents.
ugh.
And everybody goes, yeah, exactly. So to change it kind of provided people with an extra sense of, oh, it's not that same old thing.
Even though it is.
I wouldn't say it's
Rebranded.
identical.
Okay, nice.
That's a better word.
Very
yeah,
nice.
rebranded.
Okay.
It's not identical to Common Core, but if you were to put them side by side, there are
pretty
a
close.
whole lot of similarities.
So then, I want to ask next about. You told me personally before about, and I've heard from actually teachers at school as well about kids that are sort of, the like on the bottom of the totem pole in their classes and they're falling behind, and there's like a sort of, I don't know, like a pressure on teachers to push kids through the system and just make sure they get on to their next grade regardless of if they have the skills that they need. Have you seen that? Is that like a teacher culture thing? Is that like coming from higher up?
Well,
Is that even real?
at least in the district that I work in, I know that one of the rules is that we can only retain, we don't call it holding back anymore, we call it retaining.
More rebranding.
Right.
We can only retain a child once throughout their whole educational career.
Oh, so not even per grade.
So if we retain a child in 3rd grade, we can't do it again when they're in 8th grade.
How do
So-
you feel about that as a teacher?
Well, it can be frustrating to think, I've had kids before who are way below where they should be in reading, and it's difficult to say, you're moving on to whatever grade they're moving on to.
Yeah, because that's what immediately what I thought was, what if a child can't read, but has and then gets held back, still can't really read, but then you can't retain them anymore, and so then they get pushed on, getting more frustrated and not really learning, and then what happens to that child? I think you told me a story about something like that, where you have kids in the classroom who are way behind, and how do you guys deal with that? Like, what the system wants you to push them through, and how do you get them what they need?
It's hard. I've had students come in before that are, 2 grade levels below where they should be reading. So if you have a 6th grader, they're reading at a 4th, even 3rd grade level.
Barely making it through Super Fudge. That's
Well,
that's tough, man.
It can be really difficult. And one of the things that I use a lot with those kids is I try to work as one-on-one as I can. You said earlier, 25 kids in a classroom, you can't work one-on-one as much as you want to. A lot of times children get pulled out for reading intervention services or math intervention services, whatever it is that they need. I try to work with them as much as I can, and you do still see progress. Every year you see progress, but it can be hard still sending that child on knowing that they're not at where they should be.
Right. So I kind of have a similar story to some of that. I went from homeschool to private school in 5th grade, and so I had been getting constant one-on-one my whole life up to 5th grade. And even private school was not as big, so it was, what do we have, 10 people in our class?
It's
in our
probably
class.
15 there.
Oh, 15, okay.
Probably
15. But I remember having like the spelling quizzes and stuff and just like sitting there so frustrated because I was getting behind in my work and stuff and I couldn't keep up. And that was something I had to deal with. And thankfully there was a lot of people there that helped me out a lot, and I got through all that and it was okay. But I can only imagine like the struggle of being in 6th grade at a 4th grade reading level, and everyone around you is reading all these books, and then you have to get more one-on-one attention, which can be almost embarrassing if you're thinking, well, everyone's thinking I'm dumb, and so I can only imagine how difficult that is.
But you also have to think, when you retain someone, you're taking them from their friends, you're taking them from their class that they've been with, and that's, I think, another reason why they try to avoid that, because say you are in 6th grade reading at a 3rd grade level. If they hold you back, you're still at a 3rd grade level, but now you're not with your friends. Now you're that kid that was retained. So you have to think about what it does to them emotionally, not just academically. And I mean, just because you're at a 3rd grade reading level doesn't necessarily mean you're at a 3rd grade math level.
Okay.
So, I mean, you just have to try to keep moving them forward and making progress so that you're not holding them back in other areas.
Right. Okay, that makes more sense. I can understand. I didn't really think of it that way, but yeah, that's a good clarification.
I've had a student retained before, and you see those social impacts of it. As I had the student the 2nd year that they were in that grade. So you kind of get to see, you know, they're with a whole new group of kids, and
they're older,
their friends
and,
are
yeah.
all, you know, they've moved on.
Yeah.
It is.
That's pretty rough.
It can be.
All right, Justin, you had a question before?
Yeah, I'm really curious about, like, I know we hear a lot about how our education system is falling behind compared to the rest of the world and things. I'm just wondering, you know, as teachers, what do you guys think the problem might be, or what could we do to try and basically improve our numbers and make ourselves feel better?
Make ourselves feel better. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that, and I always say this whenever someone brings this point up, is our country educates every child. We give every child an education in a public school, if that's where they want it, private, homeschool, wherever. Not every country educates their children once they get to a certain point. And it can look like they're ahead of us in whatever rankings you want to give, but we have a much larger group of kids from all different performance levels. So it's hard to kind of justify it there. I personally, if we're going to just focus on our country and making it better, I would love to see smaller class sizes. A lot of schools, I've had, 27, 28 kids in a class. It's very difficult to work one-on-one or even just in small groups when you have 27, 28 children. And when you're monitoring behavior for all of them while you're teaching.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
you're teaching, you're monitoring behavior, you're wearing a lot of different hats. So that's kind of one of the things I'd like to see is more funding for more staff.
Okay.
Basically.
What do you think, Dad?
I would also say just bringing more awareness to the teaching profession and giving them more, I don't want to say more money, but whenever you say, oh, I want to be a teacher, people say, ooh.
Yeah.
So
That's why we want to have you on the episode. So.
I mean, like, these people are educating your children.
Right, yeah.
These are the kids who are going to grow up to run the country, and you treat them like
Right.
nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting, one of my professors in college, I don't remember exactly how she said it, but she was like, how can you expect to get great teachers when you don't treat them like they're worthy? So you're getting the not so good teachers because they're the only ones willing to do it. So then your kids are getting not so good education. And then you wonder, why do my kids not have good education? But it's because you have to start kind of at the top.
Right.
Because it's hard work. Like, people think, oh, you have summers off? Oh, you get holidays off? No, it's hard work every day. And I think that when people start appreciating that and teachers feel that appreciation, you'll see better performance in the classrooms and education will be better.
I agree.
Huh?
I'm just waiting for robot teachers personally.
Yeah, putting her place there. That's well, thank you guys so much for coming out. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I like having you guys
this was
here.
great.
Yeah, we
This
gotta
was
do it
great.
again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Remember to check out our Aftercast episodes. They don't come out till Sunday now, but just hang out for that. Like, comment, and subscribe, please. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.